But the fish and the boat inside is still hiding somewhere.
Next item, after this distraction item. Oh, we're talking of time and you're distracting us from jokes. Christian-Muslim relation in Africa today. Who is Mbillah?
Johnson.
Mbillah. Johnson. Yes. Johnson Mbillah, I think, is the person that is well qualified to give this panoramic view of Christian-Muslim relations in Africa today, because he's presently the director, the current general advisor. I'm looking for your name. Director General of Mbillah, Program for Christian-Muslim Relations in Africa. Although he's based in Nairobi, he is a Ghanaian of the Presbyterian Church, another one. and he lives in Nairobi. He works in Nairobi, but covers the whole of Africa on this issue. So I think we'll be very happy to hear what Dr. Mbillah has to say about this panoramic view of Christian-Muslim relations in Africa. You have 30 minutes, starting from now.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think you have conditioned me. I actually wanted to say some things before I begin, and you timed me, but you said it begins from now. And just to acknowledge those from whom I have studied under, Reverend Dr. Okong was my teacher in comparative religion and African traditional religion when I studied theology, and I recognized that it wasn't appropriate for me to speak after him, but John conspired and did that. Also, of course, Dr. Sigvard Monsikat is here, and my chairman, Bishop Perron, is listening to me very carefully as I try and attempt to talk about Christian-Muslim relations in the African continent. When I say so, then of course, Professor Lamin Sane, they are the pioneers. They encourage us as Africans to follow his footsteps. He has been a pioneer of Kromura, and one time our center in Ibadan, which doesn't exist anymore, he was one of the key persons. Now I begin. I am hoping that I will read, which is not what I'm used to, but I have to with the hope that that will enable me to be able to beat the time, or at least stay within the limits. One thing, if I'm too loud, forgive me, because John and I used to shout on the marketplaces in Ghana. We were evangelists, also including Sulesa, and there was no microphone like this. So you have to raise your voice, and unfortunately, I have not yet learned how to speak on the microphone. So just bear with me.
That's what Jesus did.
That's what Jesus did. So we follow the example. In the continent of Africa is a religious continent, and this is obvious, and its people, therefore, a religious people. In spite of the current debate on whether we should refer to the African traditional religious heritage as African traditional religion or African traditional religions, it is true to say that the current religious map of Africa shows that there is plurality of religions. Some are major and others are minor in terms of numbers. Historically, African traditional religions, the primordial religious heritage of the African, was joined by Islam and Christianity, and this eventually produced Africa's triple religious heritage. With time, multiples of other religions joined this triple religious heritage to produce what may be described as Africa's rainbow of religions. The growing religious plurality in the African continent means that the African has multiple identities. In the past, for example, one talked about ethnic identities, or what some people choose to call tribal identities. In the present situation, however, one may say, for example, that I am a Senegalese, I am a Seren, and a Christian of the Roman Catholic faith. Just as one may say, I am a Nigerian, I am a Hausa, and a Muslim of the Wahhabiyya reformist tradition. Now, this maze of the African personality is not the preserve of any one particular country. On the contrary, it is a phenomenon spread all over sub-Saharan African countries, and therefore requires cooperation, collaboration, tolerance, and constructive engagements between Christians and Muslims, so as to enable the continent see itself and its people as a unity in variety that links up with the common humanity of the human family worldwide. The presence of Christianity and Islam in Africa, among others, demonstrate that religious diversity has come to stay and will arguably and humanly speaking stay with us till the end of time, and as Christians, let me dare say, until Jesus returns. The interesting aspect of the religious diversity is that both Christian and Muslim theological thinking do not see this as an accident of religious history. And this we always have to have in our minds. The Christian theological understanding of God as well, of God as all-knowing, makes it impossible to conceive that religious diversity could have come about without God's knowledge. Christians will not say that God brought about our religious diversity, but I suppose will certainly say that it came about with God's knowledge, at best with his permission, and at worst against his will. Islam, on the other hand, does state that if God had wished, he would have made us to be one community, but that God did not wish that to be the case. So the Quran states clearly, or recognizes the reality of differences in religion when it says, to you, your religion, and to me, mine. With this background of the Christian and Muslim theological views of religious diversity, we can say without any fear of contradiction that it would seem to be theologically, and let me suggest also existentially absurd for any individual or religious group to be impatient with the existing religious variety, since arguably religious variety, as I've said before, will remain in the lot of Africans until the end of time. Now, a credible question for any religious group to ask, therefore, is not how to eradicate religious diversity, for that would mean attempting to eradicate the God-given freedoms of human beings to choose their religions and be responsible for the choices that they make. That is, people who have to choose. But how to constructively, the question is rather how to constructively relate with religious diversity so as to enable religious people and their societies live in peace. In an African household where some of the family members are both Christians